Hello everyone, welcome to today's lecture. A few days ago on the 22nd, we celebrated the second anniversary of the Aeon of Eternal Light. So that means we are now in our third year of the Aeon of Eternal Light, and Lantos gave this message. This was on April 22nd. It is a blessing. The currents of time flow, bringing greater waves of purity. This third year of the Aeon of Eternal Light brings forth the light of supreme knowledge. This light spreads around the world, enlivening hearts, awakening minds. This year brings the emergence of the great form, the golden form. It is time. It is time. 1 million songs initiating the rotations of creation, eliminating the residues of ignorance. 1 million songs. This is the time to create eternal light for all. Very good. So that was his message for this year, the third year of the Aeon of Eternal Light. Today's lecture, we're going to review the first lesson of the course of the Holy Season, the lesson of the elements. Now, we are getting prepared to receive the Phoenix Gate. We anticipate getting it in the next few weeks, and in the next lecture or one after that, I will present you with the information about the Phoenix Gate, about how to buy it, the cost, everything like that. But in preparation for us getting the Phoenix Gate, I want to make sure that you remember the various techniques that Thoth has given us to be able to enliven all 81 seeds using your Song of the Spheres. And he gave us 4 different techniques during the course of the Holy Season. One was the technique of elemental sequence. We're going to review that one today. One was the rose ring sequence, the family line sequence. And that was from Lesson 2. We'll review that one during the next lecture. And then we had 2 sequences using the golden ring of Thoth. The journey into creation, enlivening seed 1, going all the way up to seed 81, and the expedition to the source, starting at seed 81 and returning back to seed 1. We will review that one on our third lecture. So I'm just going to make sure that you understand how to do those sequences and the benefits of them, so that when we do receive the Phoenix Gate, you will understand everything that we need to know to be able to take full advantage of it. Let me review briefly some of what Thoth said in Lesson 1. At the very beginning, he introduced the concept of various levels of infinity. Here's what he said. Fullness is everywhere found. Each segment of infinite contains infinite. Each segment builds a greater infinite. Infinity expands. Each seed contains fullness. Seed by seed, layers of fullness develop within experience. Through knowledge, layers of fullness assemble, and through holy vision, profound fullness is realized. Profound fullness. To realize profound fullness is the goal of existence. This requires holy vision. Each segment of infinity purifies the structure, the path, the vision of fullness. Here now, knowledge for illumination. 3 segments of infinity. We begin with the elements, purification of the elements, layers of knowledge for attainment of holy vision, and realization of profound fullness. Elemental expressions form as fullness tumbles into creation. As one gives rise to creation, as the limitless source expresses in limitations, as the infinite enters the finite, elements are released. Something happens. Within the infinite, boundless state of fullness, something happens. The one stirs. The source reflects upon itself, producing a spiraling, tumbling motion. This motion throws off elements. elements get released. Each seed is an expression of the process of creation. Each seed emits a vast multitude of life and form. Legions of suns, moons, and celestial bodies emerge from a single seed. Seeds are identified through the dynamics between Realm Lord and spin keys. Elements released identify the relationship of Realm Lord and spin keys. The values of relationship of fullness tumbling produces certain specific elements. It is a dynamic process. Relationship between Realm Lord and spin keys is a dynamic, spinning, tumbling process. The elements get thrown off. Elements are released with great dynamic energy. Somersaulting energies pass from Realm Lord into spin keys, releasing form, generating substance. Tumbles may be identified and measured. Transformations may be measured in numbers. Elements are identified by means of numerical values of transformation. Numbers are windows into the nature of the boundless. As the boundless takes on boundaries, numbers describe the process of the journey. The song of the spheres is played. Through numbers, we have identification of elements and physical expressions associated with seeds. Okay, so beautiful information, but what does it mean? You'll remember that feeling of being lost, of not quite understanding what I just read, which you undoubtedly had back when we went through Lesson 1 the first time during the course of the Holy Season. Okay, so what this message is talking about is that spinning, tumbling process by which the source reflects upon itself. The Realm Lord has a, well, let's read exactly what he says. The Realm Lord, the relationship between Realm Lord and spin keys is a dynamic, spinning, tumbling process. So the relationship between the Realm Lord and the spin keys is this tumbling and the source reflecting upon itself. This is a somersaulting, tumbling, dynamic process. And what gets generated through all of these tumbles? Elements. Elements get thrown off. Elements are generated. Now, Tote mentioned numbers, that these can be identified as numbers. And he gave Cindy seed diagrams that contained the numbers that would appear in the first key position, the second key position, and the third key position for each individual seed. Let's take a look at seed number 1, for example. So you will see seed number 1 has the number 1 in the top first key position, and it has the number 10 in the bottom left. That's the second key position, and the number 19 in the bottom right. That's the third key position. So what does that mean? It means that those numbers identify the elements that are associated with seed number 1 through those specific key positions. If we compare this with seed number 10, take a look on your screen at seed 10, you see the number at the top in the first key position is 4. The number on the bottom left, the second key position, is 13. The number on the bottom right, the third key position, is 22. So different numbers. What does that mean? It just means different elements are associated with seed 10 than those which are associated with seed number 1. That's what it means. What do you need to be able to understand in order to use this information? You don't need to understand anything about the numbers. You don't need to remember the numbers. All you need to know is that this is the information behind the handouts that we give you. So let's take a look at a new handout. This is a handout that gives you all of the conditions that are related to each specific seed. You can see it on the screen. This is the first page of the handout, and the email that contained this video also contained the link for you to be able to download this handout. It's a long handout. It's about 15 pages long, but that's because there's a lot of information in it. Now, in the left-hand column, as you can see, you have seed numbers. And in the right-hand column, you have all of the elemental conditions that are related to each individual seed. Let's take a look, for example, at seed number 3. So on the left-hand column, you just find the number 3. And then you'd look at the right-hand column, and it will show you the elemental conditions that are associated with seed number 3. So energy of creating, fever, premonition, excess mental activity, discomfort in head, influenced by settled vibrations, nerves, earaches, mental imbalance, skin irritations, flame of knowledge enters here. Bacterial or viral infection afflicting eyes or skin, warts, fevers, mental turmoil, fragility, headaches, weak digestion, allergies, heat in personality, irregular sleep, meningitis, immune weakness, accidents, pain in joints, heart, nerves, lymph system. So what does this mean? Well, as we go through the question and answer with Tote, we'll see that he explains that when someone has an inception seed that has elemental conditions that are of particular relevance to the individual, what that means is the individual needs to enliven his or her inception seed using the song and the wooden ring of elements. If the appellation seed is the one that has the most relevant elemental conditions for the person's needs right now, then that person needs to use the wooden ring and the song to enliven the appellation seed for that individual. So let's say seed number 3 is someone's inception seed. Let's say that they have problems with their joints. They're having pain in their joints. And we see that pain in joints is listed as one of the elemental conditions. So that means that that person needs to spend more time enlivening his or her inception seed using the song and the wooden ring of elements. So instead of just enlivening it briefly in the morning and in the evening, that person should go ahead and try to enliven it more times in the morning, more times in the evening, and even throughout the day. Take time during lunch, take time coming home from work to enliven the inception seed. That's what it means. There will be, it also means that when the seed number 3 is that person's inception seed, and that person, remember the aspect of the technique of elemental sequence is that we all do things during the course of our life that leave residues upon ourselves, and those residues affect our physical body. They affect different aspects of our life, usually in a negative way. And the technique of elemental sequence helps to restore the proper sequence. It helps to remove those negative residues from our bodies, from our lives. If seed number 3 is someone's inception seed, anyone with seed number 3 as their inception seed is going to have a propensity for these various conditions based on negative activity that they've conducted through the course of their lifetime and even previous lifetimes that have built up and left residues within their body, within their lives, and those residues create problems for them. There is a greater likelihood that those problems are going to fall within these categories of elemental conditions. Let's take a look at the questions and answers that Cindy had with Tote about this, because he gave some very good information in these questions and answers. Cindy asked, what's the difference between enlivening all 81 seeds beginning with seed number 1 and proceeding through seed 81 versus initiating the way of the elements, elemental sequence? This is the technique we'll be reviewing in just a few minutes. Tote said, sequence. Sequence is the difference. The way of the elements produces waves of purity surging through the elemental expressions of creation. Initiating elemental sequence infuses energy and intelligence into layers which store memory of past experience. Elements form around memory. Residue alters forms. Initiating the way of the elements causes winds and waves of purity to churn, replacing imperfection with expressions of original sequence. Residue is replaced by purity of origin. That's just what I was talking to you about. Actions in the past, leaving residue on your body, within your life, creating problems for you. The technique of elemental sequence, residue is replaced by purity of origin. That's the purpose of it. So it's a very important technique for all of us. Cindy asked if a seed has many elemental values associated with it. For example, seed number 3, we just went through the list, and it was a long list of conditions associated with seed 3. Cindy asked, does enlivening that seed address all of those values at once, or should one set an intent before enlivening the seed if one wants a specific intent? And Tote's answer was, the seed enlivens all within its domain. Initiating spin on the seed enlivens all values contained within the realm of the seed. Each seed is source to a vast array of form, as the apple seed is source to all expressions of the apple seed, of the apple tree. Enlivening the seed initiates origin sequence. Purity of sequence code is generated. Distortions are eliminated. Impurities are replaced with clarity of sequence. Illumined sequence. Greater is the value. Return to origin is greater than the value of origin. Return to origin is a greater value of fullness. Profound fullness is realized. Then Cindy asked, if someone is wanting to get a specific benefit, is it sufficient to enliven any seed that has a number in a spin key position that relates to that benefit, or is it best to find a seed that has multiple spin keys supporting that benefit? And Tote said, different causes. Same result, different cause. Within the garden, weeds may appear from different causes. Wind, water, earth, or other causes, human, animal. Symptoms of weeds appear in many gardens, yet causes are found to be different. We look for the cause within inception or appellation. If the symptom is found within the elements of inception, enliven inception. If the symptom is located on the layer of appellation, enliven appellation. In this way, the cause is addressed. The sequence code is restored. If the symptom is not found within the individual seeds, enliven the way of the elements, the elemental sequence of totality. So again, what that means is that when you look to your inception seed, if one of those many conditions that is listed as being relevant to your inception seed, if one of those is something that you really want to focus on, simply enliven your inception seed more frequently, making sure to use the wooden ring of elements along with the song. If your appellation seed has a condition that you're particularly interested in, then again, spend more time, more frequently, enlivening your appellation seed using the song and the wooden ring of elements. That's all that means, but the important part also is if what you're looking for is not specifically mentioned in this handout of the elemental conditions seed by seed, if it's not specifically mentioned in your inception seed or your appellation seed, then what you're supposed to do is the entire technique of elemental sequence. Now, Cindy did ask Tote, so we shouldn't select a seed based on the symptoms to enliven. Let's say there's another seed, not your inception, not your appellation seed, but another seed, and it happens to mention a condition that you want or that you want to address. Tote said, it may. It may. Yes, one may locate the cause through relief of the symptom. So what he is saying there is he's not saying that you shouldn't do that, but his instruction still was enliven all 81 seeds using the elemental sequence technique. And that's because if you select one seed because it happens to mention a condition, you don't have, it's not a sure thing that you're going to be selecting the correct seed, because it's not a sure thing that you're going to be selecting the seed that has the origin of that condition related to it. So instead of simply finding a seed that has a condition that you're interested in strengthening or getting rid of, you either focus on your inception seed, or you focus on your appellation seed, or you do the full technique of elemental sequence. Now, the technique of elemental sequence is simply going through enlivening all 81 seeds, but it's doing it in a specific order. Toth gave Cindy a specific order for enlivening the 81 seeds. Here's what he said about this technique. Elements result from the tumbling nature of fullness, one entering boundaries. 81 seeds, expressions of the process of one, seeking within itself full range of itself. Spinning the way for elemental sequence restores memory to the boundary. It is memory. Spinning the way enlivens memory for each aspect of creation, for each boundary, restoring the supreme sequence code for each material expression, for each element, for each cell. Cells are enlivened through knowledge of connections between element and form. Now, initiating the way of the elements, elemental sequence. Beginning with elemental value 1 in first key position, initiate spin on 9 seeds with first key value 1. Following, initiate spin on the way for 9 seeds with first key value 2. We continue in sequence through 81 seeds of creation. This is elemental sequence. Cindy asked if that meant we should spin the song on each of the seeds with number 1 in the first spin key position, then move to number 2, then move to number 3. And he said, yes, elemental sequence, initiating spin for surging waves of purification on elemental layer of existence. Surging waves of purification on elemental layer of existence. That is what we get from this technique. So it's an important and valuable technique for everyone. Now, the handout that you received when we did lesson 1 of the Holy Season is your lavender handout. You can see it on the screen next to me. The lavender handout gives you the proper sequence code, proper sequence for the 81 seeds, enlivening them. Just go through the sequence and make sure that you have the wooden ring of elements as you enliven each seed one by one with the song. That's how you get the benefits. It's that simple. So with lesson 1 from the Holy Season course, what did we learn? Well, we learned that through that process, that tumbling process of the source reflecting upon itself, elements get thrown off. And the elements are related to specific numbers. Because of those numbers, we can identify the elements in the seeds. But we don't need to pay attention to the numbers. We have handouts that tell us for each seed the elemental conditions that are related to them. And if your inception or your appellation seed happens to have conditions that you're interested in, then you enliven that seed, your inception seed or your appellation seed, more frequently, making sure to enliven it with the wooden ring of the elements as well as using your Song of the Spheres. And then there is still a great benefit to using the entire sequence, the technique of elemental sequence, surging waves of purification. So that is what we learned from lesson 1. Okay, everyone. Next lesson, next lecture, we're going to be covering lesson number 2, the rose ring sequence, the family line sequence, just making sure that you understand what the benefit of it is, as well as how to do it. Okay, everyone. Have a great week.